Welcome to the Joe Watt podcast. I am Joao Vendramini from the University of Florida Range Cattle Research and Education Center, and today we are in Okeechobee, Florida, and my guest is Mr. Todd Clemons. Todd, thanks for being with us today.
You're welcome, Joao. Glad to be here.
Um, I would like to ask Todd to introduce himself and talk a little bit for us about his business here in Okeechobee.
Sure, I'm Todd Clemons, and I'm president of the Okeechobee Livestock Market. And this market has been in our family since 1961. My grandfather, my father, and another gentleman purchased the livestock market from the Adams Ranch family, Judge Adams. And so it's been in my family for over 50 years, and it's a family-run business, and I'm third generation, and my brother's children and my children are involved in the business still today.
That's great. And Todd, how many head do you run in the market here every week?
Well, now we're selling on Mondays and Tuesdays, which we have been since Belgrade Livestock Market shut down in 1971, I believe. They used to sell on Mondays. When that market closed down, we started selling on Mondays. So we sell on Mondays and Tuesdays, and right now we're running about 100,000 head of cattle through the ring each year.
Okay. And you also have the internet sale, the producer sale.
Yes, we're part of the internet cattle selling business, and we sell probably 30 to 40,000 head of calves on that sale every year.
And was that one venue to get truckloads and also get the business from these people that have more volume, that they don't bring cattle to the market?
That's right, Joel. In this business, we've got a large group of people that only have a handful of cattle, and I'd say 80% of the cattle we sell are small operations. And then we have a few people that have big ranches, and they're able to put together semi-loads of calves at one time, and so that allows them to be able to ship their calves straight from the ranch, which does enhance the value, and it's an easier kind of a deal. So we want to offer different ways for people to sell their cattle.
And Todd, talking specifically about bringing cattle to the market for sale, we always see those light calves and heavy calves, and you have some slide in the price for the heavier calves. So can you explain to our listeners about the slide in different weights, and if there is some times of the year or some situations where you think it would be better to sell light calves instead of heavy calves, or vice versa?
Well, I sit here and watch these cattle sell week after week, and you see the difference in the prices, and there are so many variations and so many variables involved in why cattle bring what they bring. There's so many different breeds. The weight ranges are so different, and then you've got a difference in the price between even the steers and the heifers. Well, I guess from a buyer standpoint, or the people that are actually buying the cattle for the end product, has to know what they're going to get for that calf on the back end. And so they work that price back to the livestock market. And if a calf is 300 pounds, then let's just say that they've got to put 900 pounds to 1,000 pounds of weight on that animal. So they figure that, and there's a break-even point. And so that determines the price that they can give for that animal. Well, it's going to be a higher price than it would be for a 500-pound calf, because the initial purchase of the calf is a price. And so the weight, that 900 to 1,000 pounds of weight that the owner is going to put on that calf, he can reduce that cost of the animal by just grazing him on grass or feed and grass, but his cost of gain is going to be less over an extended period of time, so he can give a little bit more for the lighter calf. So that's one reason why you're going to have a difference between a 300-pound calf and a 500-pound calf. And then the steers and heifers, that just and I'm not a feedlot guy, I'm a market guy, but I don't think the heifers will convert their feed, and it costs more to put the weight on the heifer than it does the steers. So the guy buying the cattle has to figure that cost in the purchase of the animal. So he's going to be able to give a little bit more for the steer calf than the heifer calf, but just because of the feed conversion. Is that a good enough answer?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's explain
Okay.
why they have that initial difference. And do you feel that there are some times or something happens in the market where it becomes more attractive to sell those light calves?
Uh, that's a good question. There probably is. I mean, times of the year certainly where there's a lot of grass out west in the summertime, and we're having these calves in the spring of the year that are coming off of first calf heifers. A lot of spring calves here in Florida are lightweights, and a guy can buy those 300, 400 pound calves in the spring and turn them out on summer grass in Kansas or somewhere like that. Put 200 or 300 pounds on them and then send them to the feedlot. And so it's different conditions. I guess it's grass conditions or just what a guy's looking for. There's another group of people that there's people that have cutting horses and they use cattle for their cutting horses, and they like to buy heifers and they like to buy them around 500 to 600 pounds, and they use them and they're cutting horses, and they feed them and take care of them while they're using them, and then they turn around and sell them to a feedlot somewhere. So there's different reasons why people want to buy a certain weight range of cattle, and it could vary.
And talking about all the variation that you mentioned, so different types of cattle come and go. And do you see that there is a stereotype of calves that will bring consistently a little better price, or do you think that's again it's all this variation just come into play, and black calves and sometimes red calves and white calves they can bring the same money, or there is something that will be consistent better?
Quality is number one, regardless of the breed. If it's a good quality calf, it's going to bring more money than a plain calf. But here at our market, and I would say most all markets, there are certain breeds of cattle that bring more money, and that's going to be from the feeding end of it, where the people know that these certain animals are going to feed cheaper, they're going to convert better, they're going to grade and yield better, and they know all that. And from a market, my standpoint, it's what calf brings the most money to the producer. That's what we're interested in, getting the guy as much as we can for that calf. And right now, the Angus, the black cattle, Angus quarter Brahman cross Angus calves are selling about as good as anything out there. And then the Charolais cross calves would be right there with them, pretty close. And then after that would be Brayford cross with a composite red-hided calves do pretty good, and then Brahman calves would be after that. But the Brahman heifers are in really high demand, and here in South Florida we've got those cattle, and there's not how many places in the nation can you have those kind of cattle. It's us in South Texas, so we see a lot of premium for the Brahman cross heifers. People are buying those heifers to take back home and put in their herd. And you can take that heifer and breed her to an Angus or a Charolais or an Angus bull to start with, but cross her with an Angus or Charolais later on, and that's about as good a calf as you can get market wise.
And we talk a little bit about the Brahman, and we know that our cattle here needs to have some Brahman because of the heat and longevity. It's good cattle. We are Brahman influenced cattle country here. We have crosses like Brangos and Brayford. Do you think your buyers, people that come here, do you have some buyers that really comes to have a heavier Brahman set of calves instead of just a regular English type of cattle? and they send to South Texas or somewhere that they have more specific market for that kind of cattle?
We have buyers here that come here just for the Brahman heifers,
Mhm.
uh, because they're marketable, they're in high demand, and there's a real low supply of those cattle. So yeah, uh, and I'm just, my family has a ranch and cattle too, and I was saying, man, we ought to just change all our bulls up to Brahman bulls, because these heifers are bringing more than steers are bringing. So if you figure it, and I hadn't done it yet, but if you put a pencil to it, I bet you would come out about as good raising Brahman calves, and just you'll get a discount for the steers when you sell them, but the heifers are going to be worth considerably more than a quarter blooded steer calf is. So yeah.
And we believe that the market is the gauge, right, for productivity and quality. The market will tell you how good your thing is or how good your cattle is
Correct.
or not. And do you think now is people realizing, because there was a lot of preconceived against the Brahman cross animals, but now the market is realizing that those females are very productive, so it's time to
I
to
think
buy.
it's already happening,
Mhm.
and that's why when I think of things, usually if I think of something, I'm already a year late because somebody else has already done it. So by the time you get into it and change your bull system up, and you get these calves, there may be a flood on the market of these animals. So that would maybe keep me from doing that. Um, the one thing I see down here too, and you talked about heat tolerance and Brahman cattle in South Florida. When the Angus came out with a certified Angus beef program years ago, uh, they really did a great job. And before that happened, most everybody around here was using Hereford bulls. And because of the difference in the price, everybody switched. They got rid of their Herefords and they went to Angus bulls, and then they went to keeping their Angus or Brangus heifers. And in South Florida, you'll see herds of cattle that are just totally black, and which kind of doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it's good quality, but when you go to work them, and the shipping time here is in August and September, which it's 120-degree heat index, and you're handling black cattle, not everybody can do that. I mean, you're going to have some problems with heat, and you're going to have weight loss. You're going to have some death loss. So you don't have to have a black cow to have a black calf. You know what I mean? So I don't quite understand some of the reasons why people do what they do. But we have cows here too on land that are for ag exemption kind of land, and we call them tax cows. A man will have 20 acres of land in a development area, and the property taxes are so high that he can't afford to pay the taxes on it. So you go put some cows on it, and you get the ag exemption for having cattle on the property. So the purpose of those cows is not to make the most money or have the best cow, but they could be longhorns, or they could be the Andalusias or the cracker cows or anything, and they're saving that man so much money he doesn't care what he is. And so at the markets, we see just every kind of animal in the world, and it's so diversified, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think we all want to be raising the very same product and get streamlined into like a chicken farm or a hog farm. And no offense to those people, but we're very diversified, and these ranchers and cattle people they all think different, and so we have different kinds of animals. So it all depends on what your purpose is. Sometimes it's not about the bottom line of what that cow's going to bring you back. So there could be other reasons.
Mhm. And Todd, we are going to the end of our conversation here today. So before I finish, I'd like to ask you like three quick questions that you can answer. Really, two options, one option.
Okay.
And as you said, you have some also have some cattle and run some cattle around here. So if you have to tell me two forage species that you like the most? What would be?
Bahia grass, number one, I guess, because it gets along pretty good. It's easy to have, and then I don't know, a Floralta or one of
Mhm.
those kind of grasses, which I'm not that familiar with it, but
All right.
Bahia grass, I guess, for me would be my pick.
Okay. And if you have to select two cattle breeds that you think are good for us,
I think Angus Cross and Charolais Cross calves.
okay. And I know that you and your family have been here for a long time, and your father is a legend here in Okeechobee, primarily being a cowboy and rodeo cowboy.
Oh yeah.
And if you go to the rodeo, what is your favorite attraction at the rodeo?
Oh gosh, everybody loves bull riding, Joao. Um, but I think my favorite event, just because it's from the old days in the past, is the saddle bronc riding. And I remember as a kid watching my dad, and he did all 5 events.
Mhm.
And I just remember the saddle bronc riding being the classic event, and it's really it's a beautiful thing to watch when it's done right. So saddle bronc riding's my pick.
Yeah, that is a good choice. So we are debating between the saddle bronc riding and bull riding in
Yeah,
different podcasts. So, but I think those are my favorites as well.
good,
So, Todd, I would like to thank you very much for your time,
sure.
and I'll see you next time. My name is Joe Vendramini.
Joe, what?